Week 18 is a good week for DFS. We're going to give you a FanDuel and a DraftKings lineup right now on Fantasy Football Today Express. All right, Adam and Dave are here. Dave did DraftKings. I'm on FanDuel. All right, Dave, give me your DraftKings lineup and tell me why you're going with each guy here, because that'll help us get into this players that we trust in Week 18, which is tough.
So I'll start with the stack I built, and it's the Bucs stack. They're playing New Orleans. It's a great matchup. Baker Mayfield with Mike Evans and Jalen McMillan, just trying to build off of what those guys have been doing over the past couple of weeks, and the Bucs actually have something to play for. So even if they pull their starters in the fourth quarter, I still think Baker Mayfield, who's a touchdown shy of 40 on the year. Mike Evans, we all know that he's 85 yards away from his 11th straight year of over 1,000 yards. Incredible since he missed time. And McMillan, he's red hot. Like, I think all three of those guys could continue to go off. So they're all in my DraftKings lineup. And so too are Malik Neighbors and Brock Bowers. And I think all of these guys are chalky plays. So the reason behind Neighbors and Bowers, they're both chasing the rookie receptions record all time. Bowers will enter the week with 4 more catches than Neighbors, but I think both of them are in line to get at least 10 catches each. So I want to bank on that, especially in DraftKings where it's full PPR. So if I'm going with these chalky plays, I need to put some players in my lineup that are a little bit risky. And so at running back, I did that twice over. Michael Carter for the Cardinals, Blake Corum for the Rams. And you're going to hear a lot about these guys, but I'm just hoping to catch lightning in a bottle with both of them. Maybe the 49ers defense, maybe they pull back some of their starters. Maybe they're a little less interested. And we could see Michael Carter finish out the year strong as he tries to find a new team in 2025. Blake Corum is finally getting the opportunity that we were hoping that we'd see at some point during the season. Unfortunately, it's coming in week 18 where he'll be potentially the feature back for the LA Rams. Another Ram is in my lineup too, Jordan Whittington. He's questionable, at least through practice so far. Through Thursday, he's questionable. If he does end up playing, this is a slot receiver who's going to be playing in place of Cooper Kupp with a pretty competent quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo. So should be some good volume for Jordan Whittington, one of my favorite under-the-radar DFS plays. And oopsie daisy, my lineup is pretty pricey, so I'm going to have to go cheap on defense. And Adam, it's your lucky day. The Giants DST going up against Tanner McKee and Will Shipley and Johnny Wilson. I am thinking that they might actually be able to compete. The Giants beat Philadelphia and their backups and third stringers, and their DST at 2,400, nice and cheap for the week.
Okay, so just to recap, who are your cheap plays that are going to let you afford great players?
The Giants, for sure, they're 2,400. Jordan Whittington at 3,300. And Michael Carter's 4,700. Maybe he's chalky too. Maybe I'm kidding myself by saying that he's under the radar, but at 4,700, kind of hard to ignore a running back that's got some pretty high potential to get 15 touches.
I was trying to think of, players that like wide receivers, I guess, because running backs are a little obvious. We talk about them, but wide receivers like Whittington, who are going to get some run and could be big. He's a good one. Johnny Wilson, maybe something like that. I don't know.
I bet a lot of people look to him and Jahan Dotson, and they think that those guys could be cheap plays. I just don't want to trust them with Pickett or McKee at quarterback.
All right. So Dave has some studs. You're most excited. Like you had to get who in your lineup?
Actually, I think Neighbors and Bowers were the two I really wanted to get.
Okay. All right. I'll tell you my FanDuel lineup after this break on Fantasy Football Today Express. Just one more time, Dave, just run through your lineup real quick.
Would you like me to do that, or do you want me to give you a couple of names of cheaper players that might be able to help people out?
Give me both.
They can just rewind to hear the names.
Yeah, that's all right. It's a lot. It's a lot to digest.
Okay. The Bucs stack, Baker, Evans, McMillan. The rookie receiving record stack of Neighbors and Bowers. Cheap running backs, Blake Corum and Michael Carter. Cheap wide receiver, Jordan Whittington. And the Giants DST.
And you don't have the Sunday night game in your slate?
No.
Yeah. So that's a big difference with FanDuel. I do have the Sunday night game and have to get that one. So I'll have to give my lineup in a minute. What were the cheaper players you wanted to talk about?
Okonkwo is still at 3,800. That's a really good price. Malik Washington. This is if Waddle doesn't play for Miami. He could always explode. Jets defense is out to lunch. He's at 3,900. If you really want to be contrarian, Jake Ferguson is also at 3,900. He's still going to play a decent amount. It is against the Commanders and it is with Cooper Rush, but it does kind of fit in there. I think Kyle Pitts will be popular at 4,000. Other guys on the list, man, they still have McCaffrey in here. Why do they do these things? Let me look for a couple more while you give your team, and then we'll compare.
So I'm actually changing my team as we speak, but let's throw the Giants DST in there as well. All right.
So I'll look for another DST that I think people could use that's cheap.
Yeah, I might make one switch and get a better DST, but I basically said I need to have the Lions Vikings game. So right now I have Jared Goff at quarterback, Jamison Williams, and Sam Laporta. Also, I have Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. So I've got 5 players from that game. Goff at quarterback, Jefferson and Addison, Jamison Williams, and Sam Laporta. My running backs are Zach Charbonnet, who's Jamie's start of the week, and Blake Corum, who's pretty cheap at 5,500. Tight end is Brock Bowers.
Yeah.
And the Giants DST.
Right. So we're kind of identifying some players. If I like them and if you like them, that means that the rest of the general public's going to like them. That's a problem. If you're in one of the, for a 50-50, it's not so bad.
Yeah.
And maybe my lineup is better for that. Maybe your lineup is better for that. But if you want to win a tournament, then you need to be able to come up with some alternative names than the guys that we're highlighting.
Yeah, no, I'm a 50-50 guy. So yeah, that mine's chalky for sure, but I definitely want to get in that Vikings game. So yeah, and the Bucs are a good stack for what Dave's talking about. The Seahawks, I started originally with a Seahawks stack, and I just said, no, you know what, I got to get in that Sunday night. But I started with some players I like on FanDuel. Geno Smith is very affordable. He's way down there on the list. He's like quarterback 15 or something like that. He's behind Tua and Brock Purdy. He's behind CJ Stroud. He's behind Jordan Love. So Geno Smith is a great guy to go with. You can pair him with JSN. Charbonnet is I think, very reasonably priced. I do think Corum is a good guy to have in your lineup, but I also think Tony Pollard is a really good value on FanDuel. Keenan Allen at 6,100. By comparison, Jordan Addison is 7,100. So I think Keenan Allen could be, just as good. Jamison Williams is 6,500. Keenan Allen, 6,100. I think that's a good player to go to. I do think you should pay up for McBride or Bowers. I think it's worth it. And okay. I also like the Seahawks DST if you can afford them.
So there's a couple of things I want to mention. If Bowers is going to be popular for the reasons that I talked about, that you talked about, and I think Chico Conquo will be popular too, at least on DraftKings at 3,800. That's going to be tough to ignore. But if you're willing to pay up for Bowers, you should be just as interested in paying up for McBride. And McBride might be a little bit under rostered because Bowers will be popular because of the chasing the rookie record and all that. Just a thought that's in my head. Zach Ertz could be another tight end that you could zag to. How about the Panthers stack? We're talking about Bryce Young, Adam Thielen, throw Jalen Coker in there. They're playing the Bucs. I mean, this is a terrible pass defense, and Bryce Young hasn't been terrible. I don't think that that's necessarily a bad under the radar stack to roll with, especially in the case of Thielen, if you're getting full PPR, and they're not very expensive. Another DST I would look at, this is going to be contingent on whether or not the Chargers actually play their starters, but the Raiders, their defense has been playing well over the last month. Maybe even use them if the Chargers play their starters, but especially if the Chargers decide, you know what, we don't need to play to win anything in this game. Let's rest our guys. We know we've got a much more important game next week. The Raiders at 2,300 would be an awesome DST to throw in there that could be a little bit under the radar right now.
Last stack I'm going to mention is a Giant stack against the Eagles backups. Drew Lock, Malik Neighbors, Tyrone Tracy.
I bet a lot of people go that route. I bet they throw Darius Slayton in there too. He's the type of boom bust play in a GPP. You could go with Slayton even if you don't go with the other Giants players. The more I think about it, the more I believe that the lineup I gave earlier, short of Whittington, it's going to be a pretty popular group.
All right. Well, thanks, folks. Good luck. Set those lineups. We'll talk to you on Monday on Fantasy Football Today Express.